What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We are excited today to take a look at the newly revealed Japanese set that's coming out this month in March called Heatwave Arena. This is sort of a pre-look at our upcoming set that will be coming out in the US, I think sometime in May, if I'm not mistaken, and that will be the Destined Arrivals set. I know that's going to be a very hype set for a lot of people. So we're kind of seeing the first half of that set here with Heatwave Arena. And then we will see the rest of the set with, I believe, the Japanese set that comes out in either late April or early May. So
Yeah,
we're going
that
to
Team Rocket set.
yeah. So we're going to take a look at the cards revealed here. We're going to go over the secret rares as well because those are slowly being revealed here as we speak today. And we're going to go over this set, reviewing the cards from a competitive standpoint and also a collector standpoint because I think a lot of these trainer sets are really, really hyped in terms of collecting as well. So starting off with the pack art, obviously we've got some Johto representation here, some Sinnoh representation in here, and then Arvin. So I think a lot of people are pretty hyped on the Cynthia Garchomp and then the Ethan Ho-Oh stuff for the most part.
I love to see Ho-Oh getting some love. I feel like it's been all Lugia lately, so
Yeah,
get they gotta like Ho-Oh seeing some features.
absolutely. Like we were saying, this is kind of the first half of the Destined Rival set, and we actually got a look at some of that pack art from, I believe, are these Spanish things that sort of were leaked from some website, but these will probably be what our pack arts look like for this set. So we've got the Ethan Ho-Oh, Cynthia Garchomp, the Rocket stuff, which is super exciting. That'll be in a future Japanese set. That won't be in the set we're looking at today. And then the Giovanni with Mewtwo there. So pretty hype stuff. Um, we're going to scroll all the way down until we get to the translations. So this is just like the full set list here. And we start here with the translations. Starting out here, we have Ethan's Pincers. It's a grass type basic with 120 HP. Has the Vice Grip attack for 20 damage with a grass energy. And then it has 4/3 colorless energy, the 1 point return attack that does 70 damage. And if any of your Ethan's Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon during their last turn, this attack does 100 more damage. So 170 damage from that Pincer. And as we'll see later, there's really easy ways with the Ethan's Pokemon to get the colorless energy onto this pincer.
Yeah, this pincer I think was we'll go over more of the Ethan's cards later, but this pincer I think could be a really important part of the deck. Hit grass weakness seems like it could be really good with the Zoroark EX
Mm-hmm.
coming out in our Journey Together set, and then as well as being able to hit something like Charizard for weakness. It's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, pretty strong. And 170 just in general is like a pretty solid number for a one prizer.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and then moving on from there, we have the Yanma and Yanmega lines. These seem really, really cool. The Yanma, just a basic Pokemon, nothing too interesting here, but it has the Whirlwind attack, which you can switch out your opponent's active Pokemon to the bench, but they choose the new one. Then Razor Wing for 30 damage. Nothing too important here. The most important thing is that it does have 70 HP, so it's protected from that Dragapult spread from the Phantom Dive, and then a 1 retreat cost as well on the Onmega. So 70 HP and 1 retreat cost both are very good things for your basic Pokemon these days that are evolving. And then the Onmega EX has just a very cool ability, the Buzz Boost ability. Once during your turn, when this Pokemon moves from your bench to the active spot, you may search your deck for up to 3 basic grass Pokemon energy and attach them to this Pokemon. Then shuffle your deck, and then it has the Jet Cyclone attack for 3 grass and a colorless, does 210 damage, and then you move 3 energy from this Pokemon to one of your benched Pokemon. One thing to note on that attack too, it's 3 energy. It's not 3 grass energy. So let's say that colorless energy is something else. I mean, one of the things people immediately think of when you're like moving energies around is something like Iron Hands. You could have a lightning energy be that 4th energy, and you could move that back onto the Iron Hands as well. But it could be really, really anything.
Yeah, I think this ability is just like such a strong ability. You know, like when you think of like Infernal Rain, where you get to accelerate 3 energies from your deck, that's only, when you evolve into that Charizard. Like it's like a
Mm-hmm.
one time effect. But Yanmega, like you could potentially do this multiple times with the same Yanmega. You could use 2 Yanmegas in one turn, getting him to the active spot to accelerate 6 energy out of your deck. It's a very, very strong ability. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it could enable some attackers, like you're saying, like Iron Hands. There's some other ones out there that it could be good with, but I definitely think it's a really exciting card to see. I think it's definitely one of the most hyped EXs I've seen from looking at what people are saying on Twitter.
Yeah, for sure. And the 280 HP is good on a stage one. We've seen a few stage ones with like 260 or 270. So 280 is kind of the higher range of stage one HP for EXs that aren't like something crazy like Blissey. One retreat cost as well on the on Mega. And then Lightning Week. Most grass are Fire Week. So it's kind of nice to have a Lightning Week Pokemon, especially something that's hitting something like Charizard for weakness. Because you would imagine that there might be some fire attackers in there that, could theoretically deal with your Yon Megas if that was an issue, but you aren't weak to fire. So um, that makes this even a better Charizard counter. Not that Charizard is expected to be like a top contender right now. Dragapult it makes some issues in the format for Charizard. It's sort of fallen off since we saw the introduction of Badoo, but it is still one of the most crazy static cards in the game. So there's always probably going to be a place for it in the meta. So having something like this is really cool. Not to mention, like you said, the energy acceleration is some of the craziest energy acceleration we've seen. You combine this with jet energies, you could do multiple Yon Mega Buzz Boost abilities per turn. Um, and then there's a lot of cool Pokemon. It remains to be seen what is the best, but there's a lot of cool Pokemon to move those energies to as well. With Grass Energy, things like Hydro Apple EX come to mind. Hydro Apple EX attacks for the amount of Grass Energy you have in play. Weirdly enough, Pikachu EX comes to mind because it has a Grass Energy in that attack cost and can't be knocked out because of its ability and does 300 damage. So Pikachu EX is something really cool.
Regigigas would
Reg-
be definitely an option.
Absolutely.
There's a one prize Tapu Bulu that does like
Mhm.
220 for 4 energy, so like that's like a really solid number for a one prizer to hit, and solid way to power it up.
Yeah, another thing to mention about the Omega is just the 210 number is very relevant, obviously for the weakness it's hitting, but again, there's also that Pheasantipity EX, which is in nearly every deck in the format, and probably will be as we continue going on. Pheasantipity is just so strong, and 210 is the perfect number to be knocking that out. Moving on, we have some Cynthia's Pokemon here. Cynthia's Roselia with the Spike Sting attack just does 20 for colorless, but again has 70 HP, so that's good to prevent Dragapult knockouts. And then the stage one, Cynthia's Roserade, has the Glory Cheer ability where your Cynthia's Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon, and then Grass Colorless for that Leaf Steps attack does 80 damage. So a stage one way to boost your Cynthia's Pokemon's attack damage, and it stacks. So the more Roserades you have in play, you can do 30 more damage for each of those.
Yeah, we have something similar in Journey Together with the Hop Snorlax, but that can't stack. So
Mm-hmm.
combining this with some of the other Cynthia's attackers could be interesting if you're able to get like two set up on your board. Plus 60 is like a pretty crazy modifier. So yeah, it could be interesting.
Yeah, and I think we'll kind of come back to talk about this card a little bit more as we see more of the Cynthia's Pokemon in the set. But moving on, we might have one of the most important Pokemon competitively coming out in the set, and that is this Shaman. It's a basic grass type Pokemon with 80 HP. 80 HP is important because you cannot find it with Buddy Poffin, but it also is saved from being KO'd by a Phantom Dive on a Dragapult. But it's got the Flower Curtain ability, prevent all damage done to your benched Pokemon without a rule box by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. And then has the Smash Kick attack for 30 for 2 colorless. But we have Bench Barrier back in a little bit different way than the Manaphy that is going to be rotating.
Yeah, I think I really like the 80 HP on the card. It felt like in previous formats, just if you were targeting down a Manaphy for like your deck strategy of sniping the bench, it's just so easy for people to get the Manaphy back with like Super Rod, Buddy Poffin. So you have a little bit less options to work with now. Like Artisan, you'd have to find Artisan or Nest Ball or Ultra Ball to recycle the
Mm-hmm.
Shaman or a Night Stretcher. But just yeah, I like the design of that. And I like that it only protects Pokemon without a rule box. We have Terra Pokemon now. A lot of the relevant EXs are Terra Pokemon, so they're already protected. But once down the line, when we rotate some more cards out, I think the stipulation that it doesn't protect rule box Pokemon will be a lot more relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, we have the Terras that can protect themselves because of their Terra trait, but there's Pokemon like Pheasantipity, like those support Pokemon, like Mew EXs, like Squawkabillies, that can still be targeted down by that bench damage. And I think there is actually a Pokemon in the set that does specifically a targeted bench damage that's sort of targeted at those basic EX, bench sitters, which is interesting that they've given Shaman this stipulation and then given us that card at the same time. But we'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah, Screamtail too. I just thought about that.
Yeah,
Gardevoir playing Screamtail, like Screamtail definitely gets a lot better moving from Shaman instead of Manaphy.
yeah, for sure. And then we have the Crustle line here. So the Dwebble has the Ascension attack where you search your deck for a card that evolves from this Pokemon and put it onto this Pokemon to evolve it. Which normally, I mean, that's always been sort of a good attack depending on the Pokemon you're evolving it into. And in this case, the Crustle has the Mysterious Stone House ability where you prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon EX. So this is sort of like another Mimikyu, Aegislash, those sorts of things that we already have in Standard. But on a stage 1, with the Ascension on the Dwebble, a little bit more HP than something like a Mimikyu, a little bit easier to get into play than something like the Aegislash. And then it's got an interesting attack as well for Grass, Colorless. Great Scissors does 120 damage. This attack damage isn't affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon.
Yeah, I think, looking at all the similar abilities that we have in format right now, like you mentioned the Aegislash. I think this card has all the tools it needs to be the best one out of all of them. Mimikyu is nice because it's a basic Pokemon, but there, having something that's this big and does this much damage, it can be hard for decks that have like maybe they have like an okay
Mm-hmm.
answer into Mimikyu that's not quite as good of an answer into the Crustle if you're able to attack with it. So I think this could end up being a pretty annoying card in the format. It's just being able to get into it right away, like not having its basic be such a
Mm-hmm.
liability. I think that's like really big for it. And so yeah, these types of abilities always end up being relevant in some way or another. So I would be surprised if this Crustle didn't see at least some play at some point in its lifespan.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one interesting thing to note, you talked about how it's just statted much better than the Mimikyu. Um, a lot of the decks that have answers to Mimikyu, you think about like Terra Box, the Terra kind of Noctowl using decks, or Dragapult. The Terra decks have, or the Noctowl decks have Fan Rotom, which hits exactly 70. Mimikyu has 70 HP. And then Dragapult has the Dracloaks that hit 70. Um, Again, easy way to knock out Mimikyu. Important to note on the Crustle, it has 150 HP, so it's like double 70. So like all those things that were specifically good ways to get through Mimikyu, they don't even two shot the Crustle. So that 150 is really important. And then like you said, the damage output of the Crustle is also very impactful.
Yeah, and you look at this card, it's got 150 HP, but it's a stage 1, so you could play something like a Rigid Band, giving
Mm-hmm.
it like that 30 reduction, which could be pretty annoying. You can give it something like a Luxurious Cape. There's not a lot of non-rule box Pokemon that could do 250
Mm-hmm.
damage.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on, we have the Hydrapple line here. Applin, not too much to write home about there. 40 HP, so that's a little scary for the poor Applin facing down the Dragapults. Then we have the Diplin. It's got the Energy Loop attack for Grass Energy. You put an energy attached to this Pokemon into your hand. Nothing too crazy there. But then the Hydrapple, the stage 2, has this Hydro Breath attack for 1 Grass Energy, and you discard 6 Grass Energy from your hand in order to knock out your opponent's active Pokemon. If you can't discard 6 basic grass energy in this way, this attack does nothing. So, kind of a funny attack where you can just knock out anything if you got 6 grass energies in hand.
Yeah, the last couple like one-shot attacks that we've had in the format, off the top of my head, we had Giratina V-Stars Lost Requiem, and we had Amazing Rare Veltal's attack, which was seen in the
Mm-hmm.
broken Lugia deck. And those were both very, very, very relevant. This card has a lot more negatives than either of those
Mm-hmm.
cards did. First of all, getting like a stage 2 into play is always, going to take up a lot more resources in a deck to make that work. And discarding 6 basic grass energies is a lot. There's a lot of ways to find grass energies. We have bug catching set, we have
Mm-hmm.
earthen vessel, we have superior energy retrieval. So there's definitely ways to get 6 basic grass energies into your hand, but that's still a very hefty cost
Mm-hmm.
to pay. I could see something like this being a lot more relevant once we have three prizers in the format with like our megas and stuff, taking three prizes with an attack like this makes it a lot more worth trying to make the strategy work, I think.
Hmm.
But so maybe this card might not see any play right away, but maybe something we revisit once three prizes are back.
For sure. Then we've got Teal Mask Ogre Pawn, 110 HP basic, has the Grass Dance attack. Search your deck for a basic grass energy and attach it to one of your Pokemon. Then it's got the Ogre Hammer attack for 2 grass and a colorless, does 120. And during your next turn, this Pokemon can't use this attack. So nothing much here on the Teal Mask. Then we have the Rapidash line, and this one's actually really interesting. Again, the Ponyta, the basic here's got 7 HP, 1 retreat cost. That's like the minimum that you want to see on a basic evolving Pokemon these days. And then the Rapidash has the Hurried Gate ability, where once during your turn, you just draw a card.
Yeah, drawing cards always pretty good. We have a Dodrio from 151 that does a similar thing, but it puts a damage counter on itself. So there's uh, kind of pros and cons there. The Dodrio could also be a decent attacker. I can't imagine you'd ever want to attack with the Rapidash.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's nice to always have extra options, though. You know, maybe there's like we get some more fire support in the future, and it makes it easier to play like fire draw support. So
Mm-hmm.
something to keep in mind. Not a terribly strong ability, but something, yeah, something to just keep note of in the future.
Yeah, I think as long as we have Zoroark EX, the Dunsparce, those sorts of things in the format, we might not really see much use for the Rapidash. But that once per turn is really good on something like a Goldengo EX. But that makes sense more in a Goldengo EX deck because that's also your main attacker. Filling up your board with 4 Rapidash, then you still need to have space for your attackers, right? And so it's like it's much less good in this scenario because to really get use out of the ability, you have to have 3 to 4 of them really in play. And when they don't really have any usefulness in terms of their attack, that's a little bit tougher. Moving on, we get to the Ethan's Pokemon, which I know Max and I are both very excited about. We have the Ethan Cyndaquil, 70 HP, 1 retreat. They're printing all these basics the right way. We love to see it.
Love to see it.
Has the Ember attack for 30 damage, and you discard the energy. And then the cool lava is really interesting. Again, one of the things that people talk about when it comes to stage 2 lines is if that middle evolution doesn't have like an impactful ability, it's pretty tough these days to justify stage 2 decks. And here we see this Ethan's cool lava has 100 HP and the Adventure Bond ability. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for an Ethan's Adventure, reveal it, and put it into your hand. That's a new supporter card in the set. Then shuffle your deck.
Yeah, I think this card is super good. I think should we scroll down to Ethan's Adventure
Yeah, let's
real quick?
we'll do that quick since that's so important to see and why this card is good. There it is. Are you able to read
So
that?
Ethan's Adventure reads: search your deck for up to 3 in any combination of Ethan's Pokemon and basic fire energy, reveal them and put them into your hand, then shuffle your deck. And so yeah, so that's like we're it's a good supporter just for like establishing your board. We're gonna go through several of the Ethan's Pokemon shortly after this Quilava, but very good like for finding it can find set up your board, and then it also finds your energy, which you'll need for setting up your attacks. So just a solid supporter overall,
Mm-hmm.
and having like one of the Pokemon like that, like having the Quilava just be able to search them out makes your deck a lot more consistent. So I think definitely seems very strong to me at first look.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the Ethan's Typhlosion has the Buddy Blast attack. It does 40 damage, and then it does 60 more damage for each Ethan's Adventure in your discard pile. So once you have all 4 of your Ethan's Adventure in the discard pile, the Typhlosion can do 280 for 1 fire, which is just a very good number to be hitting.
Yeah, super solid. We could like I think if you're playing a deck with Ethan's Adventure, you're definitely going to play the Kulava. And it's very easy to just play one Typhlosion in
Mm-hmm.
there as like a late game, like one prize attacker. Pretty strong. We also have a card in format, the one that shuffles that it moves your prizes to the bottom of your deck, and you put 6 new prizes out.
Yeah, yeah. I forget what that's called,
Um,
but that comes
yeah,
out in
so
Journey Together. Yeah.
yeah, so if you like, you know, if you're building a strategy around attacking with Typhlosion, before if you prized, you know, one of your Ethans and you didn't draw it till the end, that was a problem. But now you can guarantee to have all your Ethans. So that's something to take note of, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think the rest of the fire Pokemon are Ethan's Pokemon, so that'll be important for going over kind of more of how that deck's going to function. But we have the Ethan Slugma and Magcargo. The Slugma has 80 HP and a 2 retreat cost, so that's a little unfortunate. Obviously not Buddy Puff and searchable, but I think it's made up for in the fact that the Magcargo is really, really strong. It's got the Melt and Flow ability. If this Pokemon has no energy attached, it has no retreat cost. So that is very strong. Just really great mobility there for the Magcargo. It's always nice to have something in your deck that you know you can just like send up active after your opponent takes a knockout that you know you can just retreat out of right away. That's always such a big advantage for a lot of decks while you kind of play out your turn and decide what you want to do. And then for the attack, the Ethan's Meg Cargo has for 3 fire energy has Lava Burst, and then you discard up to 5 energy from this Pokemon. And this attack does 70 damage for each card you discard in this way. So up to 350 damage. That KOs basically everything in the game except for very specific situations.
Yeah, this is a really strong attacker. Having like the ability to choose how much damage you're doing, how much resources you're spending, and then being able to one shot, like you said, basically everything in the format. This is definitely a very strong attacker that's good in a lot of scenarios. And having a free retreater is, yeah, always nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And then kind of the thing that brings everything together here, we have Ethan's Ho-Oh EX. If you want to read this off to us, Max.
Yeah, so it's got the ability Golden Flame. Once during your turn, you may attach up to 2 basic fire energy from your hand to one of your bench Ethan Pokemon, and then for 4 fire energy, Shining Feather does 160 damage, heal 50 from each of your Pokemon. And then Ethan's Ho also has 230 HP and has 2 retreat. And so, yeah, this is going to be the main like way that you're going to be powering up your Cargo. You just set up 1 or 2 hoes on the bench, and then if you have 2 set up, you can attach 4 fire energy from your hand to your Pokemon. You can use your Quilava to find your Ethan's Adventure. Once your board's set up, you just use it to find 3 fire energy, and you can just attach them onto your board and swing for a ton of damage. So yeah, definitely very easy to see how the pieces of the Ethan's archetype all fit together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is one of the I mean, that's the best fire energy acceleration we have in the game right now. Obviously, it's only 2 Ethan's Pokemon, but that Meg Cargo has such a great damage modifier that I think that is, like you said, it's really easy to see how the pieces of this come together. You're using 2 Ethan's Ho-Oh, depending on what you're going up against, but 2 Ethan's Ho-Oh on your board is 4 energy on your Meg Cargo plus attachment for turn onto the Meg Cargo. That's 350 damage, blowing up basically everything in the game.
Yeah, and like we were saying, it's very easy to see how this fits with the other Ethan stuff. But something interesting with the Ethan's hose, you could play a deck with this and the Scarlet and Violet Armor that moves energy off of your
Mhm.
bench Pokemon, fire energy off your bench Pokemon to your active, and so that gives you the opportunity to maybe attack with other attackers, similar to how we were talking with Yanmega, that can power up like Iron Hands or Regigigas. In the same way, you could use Ho-Oh Armor and power up attackers like that, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Let's say, for example, you didn't want to use Mag Cargo. You could just have 2 Ethan's Ho-Oh as like your only Ethan's Pokemon in the deck. Use that Armor Rouge and be moving fire energy around to whatever you like. Regigigas, Iron Hands, anything really, which is very cool. Um, so moving on from there, we have the Hearthflame Mask Ogerpon. These are all the Ogerpons in the set are pretty bad. They all have the same first attack, which is just search for that color of energy and attach it to one of your Pokemon, and then a pretty bad attack. So we'll just skip over that one. Then we're getting into the Misty's archetype, though. Here we have Misty's Psyduck. Has the slapstick jump ability, which is one of the strangest abilities I think I've ever read. It just says once during your turn, if this Pokemon is on your bench, you may discard the bottom card of your deck. And then if you do, discard all cards attached to this Pokemon and put it on top of your deck. Um, you'll see why that matters later, but it is, yeah, I've never seen an ability like that. It's pretty funny.
I do think it's funny how they crafted this ability to not be like a Pidgeot V style ability. Like you would not be able to infinite with this card. So I think that's
Yes.
why it's so convoluted.
So that you can't, they don't want you to discard the top card, right? Because it's anti-synergistic with what you're trying to do. We'll get to that, why you're putting these guys on top of the deck. But you also don't want it to be an infinite loop where you just put your Psyduck back in the deck. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Then we have Misty's Staryu. Bubble Beam does 20 and flip a coin of heads. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralyzed. And then the Starmie For 1 water, Sudden Flash does 60 damage, and if this Pokemon evolved this turn, it does 80 more damage. So 140. Not a great number so far. The Misty's archetype is looking pretty lackluster. Then we get to the real deal here, and it's the Misty's Magikarp and Gyarados. The Misty's Magikarp has just an ability that protects it on your bench. So as long as this Pokemon is on your bench, prevent all damage from and effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to this Pokemon. It's just protecting it from Dragapult, obviously, because it's only got 30 HP. And then the Misty's Gyarados has the Splashing Panic for water. Then you discard the top 7 cards of your deck and do 70 damage times the amount of Misty's Pokemon you find there. So all those Psyducks that you put to the top of your deck, you just discard all 4 of them and do 280, maybe more, depending on how many more Misty's Pokemon you hit.
Yeah, I guess, you could play cards like Cypher Maniac's Code Breaking or Academy at Night. And so those along with the Psyduck, you could pretty consistently like set up your top decks in order to do a lot of damage with this
Mhm.
Flash Panic. But I think overall, it seems like from what we've seen of the Misty's archetype, it seems a little bit weaker than some of the other trainer archetypes we've seen in Heatwave Arena and Journey Together.
Mm-hmm. For sure. But I think we're gonna get some really good art rares out of it. So that
That's
is
for
the
sure.
redeeming quality. And then we have the Misty's Lapras. Has the swim together, search your deck for up to 3 Misty's Pokemon, reveal them, and put them into your hand. So just kind of sets up your whole strategy there when you go second with the Lapras. Moving on, we have the first of our Cynthia's or the second of our Cynthia's Pokemon. We already saw the Rose Raid. Max, why don't you tell us about the Cynthia's Milotic?
So we got the Cynthia's Feebas. It's got 30 HP, 1 retreat cost. 30 HP always makes me a little bit nervous when you're thinking about Dragapult. But for 1 colorless energy, it does 10 damage. Flip a coin if heads during your opponent's next turn. Prevent all damage from and effects of attacks done to this Pokemon. And it evolves into Cynthia's Milotic, which has 130 HP, 2 retreat. For water colorless, it does Aqua Split for 60 damage. And this attack does 30 damage to 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. And so 60, 60, and then 30, 30 snipe. Isn't like crazy strong, but with some of the Rose Raids that we looked at earlier, you could do 90 damage to the active, 120 damage to the active. So it could start adding up, and I'd say if we weren't getting the Shaman, the spread might be a little bit better, but
Mm-hmm.
this card is definitely does not want to see Shaman on your opponent's side of the field.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the thing that ultimately makes me very low on the Milotic. Like if we still were in a format with no bench barrier, then you can start building up that damage, and that makes a little bit more sense. But yeah, with that Shaman out now, I think this is unfortunately a little underwhelming. Moving on, we have a new Floatzel line. Nothing too crazy about the Buizel, but the Floatzel has for colorless Whirlpool does 30 damage, and you discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. So it's kind of a little bit of a controlling strategy there. And then for water, colorless does 140, and during your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. Thinking about things we already have in format that does this sort of thing, we have I think there's a Turtonator. You were telling me about this that does this same
Oh
thing for
yeah.
a fire energy.
Well, so the Turtonator, the stipulation with that one is it only discards from Pokemon EX.
Ah, okay.
While the Floatzel, I guess, could discard from anything, but I'd say for the most part you'll likely want to be, if you're doing this kind of strategy, a lot of times you will be targeting an EX,
Mm-hmm.
and Floatzel having it for 2 energy on a stage 1, when we will not have double turbo energy anymore. It definitely seems a little bit weaker. There's some other, I think, energy discarding attacks in the format. There's
Mm-hmm.
like a festival lead Goldeen where
Yeah,
for colors, you flip a coin and discard an energy, but with the festival lead stadium in play, you could do it twice.
yeah, yeah. But then moving on, we have a big old Dondozo EX, 260 HP basic, has the Tsunami reversal attack, 30 damage. This attack does 10 more damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So again, big, huge HP Pokemon. You could put a Hero's Cape on it, for example, make it 360. Then for 2 energy, when your opponent hits into you, you can hit pretty hard back into them. That's kind of interesting. And then the Dynamic Wave attack does 120 damage. and then you may do 120 more damage, but if you do this, Pokemon does 50 damage to itself. So the second attack, kind of putting that damage on yourself if your opponent is avoiding doing that, so you can use the Tsunami reversal attack for even more damage. Somewhat interesting, but Baxcalibur is our best water energy acceleration in the game, and I think that's a little bit tough to set up post rotation without Irida, as well as with having Badoo in the format.
Yeah, he's a big guy. Sometimes cards have enough big stats to be relevant, but if you're not able to set up a Baxcalibur, seems tough to ever attack with this
Mm-hmm.
guy.
Then we have another Ogerpon. We're going to skip over that guy. But we have a new Electivire, and this time it's an Electivire EX. Has the dual bolt attack for Lightning Colorless. This attack does 50 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. So that is interesting. Again, we talked about having the Shaman, but the Shaman doesn't protect EXs, so you can kind of set up some damage on your opponent's EXs that way, even if they have a Shaman in play. And then the high voltage press attack for Lightning Colorless does 80 damage, and if this Pokemon has at least 2 extra energy attached, in addition to this attack's cost, this attack does 100 more damage. So 280 for 5 lightning energy. That's a lot of energy to do 280.
Yeah, my first glance of looking at this card, I wasn't super impressed, but I thought about it a little bit more, and I think it actually does have some things going for it. We have that Baby Joltik that came out in our Stellar Crown
Mm-hmm.
set. That for 1 colorless energy, you can search your deck for 2 lightning energy and 2 grass energy and attach them to your Pokemon. Um, and so if turn 1, you're able to do that and get it onto an Electabuzz,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't die next turn. You can attach your 5th energy, and then you're swinging for 280. And that and that's like, and then if it goes down that turn, that could be pretty bad. But the Electivire does have 4 retreat, which means you are able to use Heavy Baton on it
Mm-hmm.
in order to preserve some of that energy. And so I could maybe see something going, and then maybe you're using uh, electric generators
Mm-hmm.
uh, to help chain like the 5 energy each time. In addition to the heavy baton, so maybe something kind of interesting. It's a pretty big, and yeah, 280 with no like downside other than the cost is interesting for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Um, I think one of the limiting factors for this will be whether 280 is like enough. If we're still in a pretty heavy stage 2 format, I don't think you can afford to be like two-shotting things with something like this as much. But like you said, the Joltik is very interesting. The heavy baton makes it so that it's like not immediately like, oh, I got to get 5 energy on this thing, and if it's knocked out, I'm kind of out of luck. So
Yeah, and I
certainly.
guess like you were saying too, like the dual bolt could be not just something to set up
Mhm.
attacks, but also could be used to like clean up
Yeah.
280 swings that you've already done. So there could be something here.
Hmm.
It definitely doesn't seem like the best EX in the set, but it seems decent.
For sure. Moving on, we have Ethan's Pikachu, just another baby Pokemon, but this time we have the Spark Draw attack. It does 30 damage, which is very relevant, and then you draw a card.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if the Ethan's archetypes will include this card. I guess it is definitely nice to have just an immediate answer for Badoo. Like if you have your Ethan's adventure in your hand, it can find you Pichu, it can find you an energy to retreat, whatever you have in the active, and you can just get right into the Pichu to KO an opposing Badoo. And it's nice to have a free retreater. The Meg Cargo, like if you evolve it up,
Hmm.
also has free retreat. But it's sometimes it can be hard to rely on on a stage 1 being your free retreater. So interesting card. Definitely not bad.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Nice
think
a
it's
nice tool for the deck to have.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's interesting because the current expectation post rotation is that the main deck really utilizing Badoo is going to be Dragapult, and a lot of other things are just not going to be utilizing Badoo. If we ever get into a world where there's more decks than just Dragapult using Badoo, or Dragapult is just so highly played, or something like that, I mean, this is like the Badoo counter. I mean, if you have a deck that really hates to see Badoo and just wants to have an immediate answer to it with that added consistency of drawing a card, like Ethan's Pichu is just great. I think people even talked about the Elekid, which is another baby Pokemon we have that does 30 for a colorless, but it doesn't draw cards. So I think this is just immediately the better version of that. So if we're ever in a too much of a Badoo heavy format, we could see a lot of Ethan's Pichu just being thrown randomly into other decks as well.
Yeah, totally.
Then we have a Manectric. Has a second attack for lightning colorless, does 120 damage, and then this attack also does 40 damage to one of your benched Pokemon. Um, so probably not much there, but if there's anything that you're trying to do damage to, I guess that could be interesting. Like anything that's attacking for the amount of damage counters that it has on it. That's gonna be tough though. It would have to be like a lightning Pokemon. You'd want to have to play like a stage 1 that attacks for 2 energy. Just not much. I've already spent too much time on the Manectric. All right, tell us about this new Rotom.
All right, we got this Rotom. It's just a regular Rotom, not one of the forms. He's got 60 HP, one retreat. For lightning energy, astonish, choose a random card from your opponent's hand. Your opponent reveals it, shuffles into the deck, and it does 20 damage. And then for colorless, we got Gadget Show doing 30x times the number of Pokemon tools attached to all your Pokemon. I guess we have Revavroom EX will still be legal. And so I guess, you know, you get a couple Revavroom EXs set up. You play your Treasure Tracker A spec. You get a bunch of tools in play. And you're still not doing that much damage.
And you have 60 HP.
And you have 60 HP.
All right, but we alluded to this Zeraora a little bit earlier when we were talking about the Shaman. This new Zeraora is a basic with 100 HP and has the Thunder Blitz attack for three lightning energy. Discard all energy from this Pokemon, and this attack does 210 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon EX.
Yeah, the numbers, like, you know, you were saying before, 210 is a very, very good number to hit right now. And so something like this, just being able to snipe your opponent's Pheasantipity and leave a one prize in the active is very, very cool for sure. Um, three lightning energy and discarding them all is a pretty steep cost. But I can see scenarios where this is like a really strong play. You know, you Iono your opponent to you snipe their Pheasantipity and you leave a one prize in the active, and the next turn you try to win the game. So yeah, I mean, this definitely seems like it could be a very strong card. It's just the question is what decks can use it? How are they going to power it up? It seems like you'd have to go in some kind of like electric generator deck, but you could also use something like the Stellar Crown Magneton to power it up.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the most interesting thing to me is anything that could just like play the Magneton and doesn't care as much about what color its energy is. You know, if you have some sort of colorless deck that just needs energy to attach, right? The Magneton gives your opponent a prize card, so you're Ionoing them to an even lower hand size and then sniping their Fez. That seems pretty interesting. There's nothing that immediately jumps to mind that could do something like that, but certainly a very strong attack to have in the game with how impactful Pheasantipity EX has been.
Yeah.
We have another Ethan's Pokemon, Ethan's Sudowoodo. For fighting, does 20 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat. So I guess kind of an interesting stalling strategy for the Ethan's deck if you just need time to set up or something. And then for colors has the Attempt Mimicry attack. Flip a coin of heads, choose one of your opponent's active Pokemon's attacks, and use it as this attack.
Yeah, these like copy attacks where you copy your opponent's active have typically never been too strong. Mew EX has come up in the past. It hasn't really seen a lot of play lately in terms of like being like an attacker in a deck. Like it could be in like the old Gardevoir decks sometimes used it. But an attack like this, sometimes it's just like you're out to win a game. It's kind of cool, I guess. It being on a coin flip just makes it like pretty terrible, though, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Then we have Cynthia's Garchomp. This is something that was really hyped up ever since we heard that there was going to be a Cynthia's Garchomp. Back in the day, the Garchomp level X in the Diamond and Pearl days was just one of the best level X's, as far as I know, in the game. So people were really excited to hear about Cynthia's Garchomp. Starting with the Gibble, though, we have the Rock Hurl attack, does 20 damage, 70 HP, 1 retreat cost. Again, like we've been talking about this whole video, that's great to have on your basics these days. Then the Gabite has the Champion's Call ability. Once during your turn, you may search your deck for a Cynthia's Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand. That's just a great ability. We talked about that with the Ethan Cyndaquil, or the Quilava. These stage two decks need a stage one that has a great ability, and that is a great ability on the Gabite.
Yeah,
Uh,
I love to see the direction they're taking the game, where we're seeing more of these stage one Pokemon that typically have never done anything in the past, uh, and giving them like a relevant ability to like strengthen the consistency of these stage two decks.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And then the Garchomp EX itself has the Corkscrew Dive attack for 100, or for one fighting does 100 damage, and you may draw cards until you have 6 cards in your hand. So just a great way, interesting damage output, enough to be relevant, and then just drawing your hand up back up to 6. That's nice. And then for fighting has the Dragon Blaster attack, does 260, and you discard all energy from this Pokemon. Have free retreat on the Garchomp EX and 330 HP and Grass Week.
Yeah. So the first thing to keep in mind when you're reading this Garchomp is that to remember that we have the Roserade that
Mm-hmm.
increases its damage, and so something like Corkscrew Dive instead of doing 100 could do 130, 160, and something like Dragon Blaster could do like 290, 320. Seems unlikely that you'd be able to set up more than two
Mm-hmm.
Roserades in a game, but I guess sometimes if your game's going really well, maybe you can get up even higher. Corkscrew Dive, bring it up to 130 could be pretty relevant because Pheasantipede is weak to fighting, and so KOing your opponent's Pheasantipede with Garchomp drawing 6 seems like a pretty good play in a lot of games. Um, and so yeah, I don't know. There's not a lot of good fighting
Mm-hmm.
acceleration in the format right now. So I think having a fighting attack cost could really hurt it for now. Maybe we'll see um, something in a future set that like could maybe make it a little bit easier. But I think that may be the thing that's holding it back the most is its attack cost.
Yeah, I think that is definitely interesting. One thing to know, I'm just going to scroll down to the trainers quickly because there is an important tool card to go along with this. We have the Cynthia's Power Weight. This is a tool card that the Cynthia's Pokemon this card is attached to gets plus 70 HP. So not only can you boost the attack damage of the Garchomp um, with the Rose Raids, but you can also boost the Garchomp up to have 400 HP, which is very important. Being Grass Week, obviously, Teal Mask Ogerpon EX has been a really strong card. That saves you from being O-code by them, even with the weakness. Um, so that
What does it not save you from though, Tom?
Yan Mega, unfortunate, but that leads me to ask, like, Cynthia is a popular character. Garchomp is a popular Pokemon. You usually expect popular characters in Pokemon to have very good decks built around them. So it leaves me wondering, with the questions of the weakness and the double fighting attack cost being kind of tough to muster, what were the designer's intentions with this deck? And thinking about it a little bit more, given that they gave the Gabite an ability to like go find one of your Cynthia's Pokemon, I almost wonder if this was meant to be kind of like a tank and heal deck where you're not really meant to use the Dragon Blaster attack. You're just like corkscrew diving, Turoing, corkscrew diving, Turoing. Like maybe that's it. That even that doesn't seem like enough, but Dragon Blaster definitely isn't enough either, you know. So it's like it's kind of hard to see what they were trying to go for here because it's like so close but not quite there.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like a tool card that adds 70 HP is just crazy to me. Like that's seems so strong. Like it's just like there's so much one shot in the format right now. Like there's just like a lot of ways to one shot something big. We have
Mm-hmm.
like the Dusknors in format, which I can imagine will continue to be a popular
Mm-hmm.
card in decks until they rotate probably. And so something like that, just like kind of not directly, but maybe like indirectly gatekeeps like these tank style decks.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe in the future, like when those cards are gone from the format, maybe a strategy like that could work a little bit
Mm-hmm.
better. Um, yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, but I think maybe the archetype leaves a little bit to be desired.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. We have a new Mudsdale. It just takes 30 less damage from attacks. Not much going on with the Mudsdale here. We have some Arven's Pokemon, though. These are the first Arven's Pokemon I think we're seeing here in the set. The Arven's Toadschool has the Slight Intrusion attack, does 30 damage, then 10 damage to itself. And then Arven's Toadschool has the Pull attack for one colorless. Switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot. And then the Reckless Charge does 120 damage. And this Pokemon also does 30 damage to itself. Not much interesting here. The only thing to note is fighting 120 damage does knock out Pheasantippides. So because it is a fighting type Pokemon, so that's the only thing interesting I can think of with the Toadscruel.
Yeah, you can use a reversal energy and
Mm-hmm.
power it up in one attachment.
Another Ogerpon, we're going to skip over that. We have Cynthia's Spiritomb with the Raging Curse attack. This does 10 damage, and then this attack does 10 damage for each damage counter on your bench Cynthia's Pokemon. This attack's damage isn't affected by weakness. So I guess
I forgot about this card, to be
I forgot
honest.
about this card, to be honest with you. Maybe the idea of the Garchomp deck is the Garchomp has free retreat. You let your opponent attack into a couple of Garchomps and just retreat them and keep them on your bench with, however much damage on them. They've got 400 HP with the tool, and then you just swing with the Spiritomb. That seems like a much more valid strategy in a format without bosses orders, though.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Which
That
is,
could be a very, very good attack for sure in the future with
yeah,
less guns.
yeah, and we do have sort of there's rumblings that we might end up in a bosses orderless format after next rotation. There have been sort of some signs that maybe they won't be reprinting bosses orders. So if that's the case, then something like this could be more valid. I think in a format with bosses orders, it's a little bit harder to just leave those Garchomps damaged on your bench. But this is a powerful attack on a non-rule box Pokemon.
Yeah, definitely. Got some Arven's Pokemon up here. And some more. So we got the famous Mabostiff. The Mastiff doesn't do too much. It's got 70 HP and 2 retreat. And yeah, the attacks aren't anything to talk about. The EX got 270 HP and 3 retreat. For one colorless energy, Hustle Tackle does 30 damage, and if it has no damage counters on it, this attack does 120 more damage. So if you have a freshman boss stiff, you're doing 150 for one. And then its second attack for triple colorless boss's headbutt, 210 damage. During your next turn, this Pokemon can't use boss's headbutt. Card kind of reminds me a little bit of the Oinkologne EX that we got in Scarlet Violet base. It kind of had similar ish attacks. But
And
yeah,
it,
not like yeah, it's got what the yeah. Here we go. We got Arven's Sandwich, which heals 30 damage from your active Pokemon. But if it's an Arven's Pokemon, you heal 100 damage instead. And so if your Mabostiff eats a hit, you could play a couple of sandwiches, get him back to full health.
yeah. I think the only problem with a tank and heal strategy with the Arven's Mastiff, one, you're weak to grass. That's a good type in the game right now. 270 HP isn't that high of an HP, and then even with all that, you're still not hitting for a ton of damage. But I see what they're going for. Interesting thing I didn't realize is all the Arven's Pokemon just attack for colorless energy. So you can just play a Magneton Zeraora in there. um, yeah, we have a new Tauros. Nothing much there. But then more Arven's Pokemon. We've got the Squovet and the Greedent here.
Okay, so you know how we were talking about our deck? Well, they printed the counter, the Arven Squovit hard counters that strategy. Unfortunately, you just you can discard all tool cards from your opponent's active Pokemon.
And then the Greedent here's a Hungry Boy.
Yeah, he's got the ability Greedy Order. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may put up to 2 Arven's sandwiches from your discard pile into your hand. So allowing your Mabostiff to eat even more sandwiches. I'd say if we had less one shot in the format, I think yeah, something like this just is a lot more relevant. But it seems like it wouldn't be too terribly difficult for a lot of decks to do 270 and just KO the Mabostiff straight up. But the ability for sure is interesting.
Yeah.
Reorder does seem pretty good. Like just guaranteed healing 200 from an Arvin's Pokemon.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That I mean, healing 100 on an item card is very crazy. I just am not
Yeah.
sure they gave it quite enough to be that good. Although I'm not going to complain. I think if this deck was like super good, that would be a little bit annoying maybe for the format.
Yeah.
Um, but it is interesting. I mean, obviously you can put Hero's Cape on Mabostiff, so maybe you just
Sure.
can make a really big Mabostiff. And it would be fun to play an Arvin to grab an Arvin sandwich.
Yeah, that's thematic.
Yeah. Um, all right, we are at our trainer cards now. We've gone over a couple of these, but we might go briefly over some of them again as we go through here. But we have a Sacred Ash. Shuffle up to 5 Pokemon from your discard pile into your deck. Just very good Pokemon recycling on an item card. This is a reprint. We've had this card before in the game, but certainly makes Miriam worthless.
Yeah, I think this is kind of like we have all these trainer cards that kind of are tied to an archetype. This kind of seems to be like the Misty's item combos with putting your discarded Pokemon back into your deck and setting them up for Gyarados again.
Yeah, and it probably works a little bit with Ethan as well. It would work a little bit better if it was Pokemon and energy, right? But the Ethan supporter finding your Ethan's Pokemon, let's say your Magcargo gets knocked out, you could Sacred Dash back Slugma, Magcargo, a couple other things maybe, and grab them back with your Ethan supporter. But yeah, most likely for the Misty. One thing to note, this isn't in here, but in one of the decks, like the Japan has like these pre-constructed decks, we did get an energy recycler reprint, which I think might also be an important item card for Ethan decks. Potentially energy recycler does this same thing but just for energy instead of Pokemon. Arvin Sandwich, we just went over that, so don't need to go over it. They got a Switch reprint in here and a Pokemon Catcher reprint. We talked
So
about
yeah, I think just is this an eye block?
yeah, so these are not legality reprints. These are just
Oh, okay. Yeah,
yeah,
good to
yeah.
know.
So they look to still be G block on these guys, whereas the new cards are I block here down in the left hand corner. I talked about Cynthia's Power Weight already, but MC's Hype, new supporter card. You draw 2 cards, and if your opponent has 3 or fewer prize cards remaining, you draw 2 more cards.
This may be one of the worst conditional draw fours that I've ever seen, unfortunately. But the art's cool.
I think if you wanted to play something like this, you'd just what is it called? That card from Surging Sparks, the girl who you shuffle your hand in your deck and draw 8. I think if your opponent has 4 or fewer prize cards or something like
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah, that
Uh,
does seem a lot better.
yeah. Judge got a glow up here, but not a legality reprint, just a glow up.
Yeah,
And then
he's
we have
kind of he's flexing.
yeah, yeah. Then we have the Ethan's Adventure. We talked about this already, but searches your deck for 3 in any combination Ethan's Pokemon and basic fire energy. So, what are your thoughts on this set, Max? Now that we've gone through all the cards, what archetype are you the most excited for coming out of Heatwave Arena?
Yeah, I just think playability wise, like I was a little disappointed by the trainer Pokemon from Journey Together. Like we definitely have some strong strategies, but looking at this set, I am so excited for the Ethan's archetype. I think it seems very synergistic, pretty powerful. I think there's a lot you can do. The Ho is just a very good card, just in general in the format. Just good at energy acceleration. And so I think that'll be what I spend my time testing immediately once we start thinking about this format, which will be our NAIC format. Um, yeah, so I think that's pretty exciting. Obviously, this is only half the set that we'll be getting, but yeah, I think the Ethan stuff is very cool. What about you, Tom?
Yeah, I am also most excited for the Ethan's deck. I think it just seems very balanced but very powerful. Everything works together really well just by reading the cards. It makes a ton of sense how you would build the deck. Um, and you have great like one shot strategies with a one prize attacker that make a lot of sense. We have plenty of item cards in the format already with superior energy retrieval, earthen vessel, those sorts of things to find our energies that just make the whole deck, I think, come together very well. So I think this is the best trainer archetype we've seen so far.
Yeah, definitely agree with that.
But there's not just competitive excitement to be had in Heatwave Arena. The secret rares are starting to be revealed. We don't have the best images of all of them yet, and I'm actually going to refresh this page because I know do get updated as we go through the day here. But as we're recording this, the secret rares have started to be revealed, so we're going to go through a couple of these. We might skip over the Yanma. Not much of a reveal yet on there, but we do have Cynthia's Rose Raid here. And I know Cynthia is a fan favorite, so I would expect some people to be very excited about this one.
Yeah, definitely looks very cool. Cynthia is definitely one of, I think, people's favorite champions. And so I think all of her cards will definitely be pretty sought after.
Absolutely. We have the new Shaman. This is a little unfortunate. This card's really good, but the illustration looks a little bit like clip art to like you were saying, Max. So
Yeah, a little clip
not the
arty.
best. We have the Crustle illustration rare, kind of like a Play-Doh sort of looking thing
Yeah,
here.
I like what he's got going on.
Yeah, that's a cool one. This one's really sick. The Hydrapple. Um,
Yeah,
all, all
that's incredible.
yeah, all the heads working together, doing that big 6 energy discard attack to kill your opponent's active Pokemon. That's really cool. Um, we've got the Rapidash here. This Rapidash is the one that just draws a card. Um, this is kind of like an interesting art style. I haven't seen something like this before.
Yeah,
I
I
wonder if
like the
that's
cult.
a newer artist. I haven't really, because sometimes you can sort of recognize art styles from like past cards. I haven't seen something like
For
this
sure.
before. This is going to be one of probably the most expensive illustration
Oh
rares in the
man,
set. I
that's
know you're
so
a big fan
cool.
of this one.
Yeah. I'm a huge Gen 2 guy. Love Gen 2. Typhlosion was my starter. Crystal was my first ever mainline Pokemon game. And so hopefully this card isn't too expensive. I would love to play with the art rare Typhlosion, but we'll have to see. I think a lot of people are going to be wanting a copy of this card.
Yeah, absolutely. I have another one that's going to be expensive. We got a Gen 1 Love here with Misty on her card with her Psyduck here. I think this is going to be another one of those. And we've seen illustration rares just pop off recently in the market too. So I expect these to be pretty expensive.
Yeah, definitely.
We've got Misty's Lapras as well. I think that's going to be a little bit less sought after, just art style wise, than the Psyduck, but still cool.
Yeah. Sonic's just such like a fan favorite too. It's just
Yeah,
Sonic gets so much love from the Pokemon Company, but
he
I
does.
think he deserves it.
He was the world's promo last year.
Yeah, yeah,
We got the electric here. Nothing too crazy there. Rotom always has fun illustration rares. I think like hang around all the items he wants to infest.
yeah. I recognize this art. I think this person's done like a couple cards, and they kind of have like an Animal Crossing style, or an Animal Crossing art style,
Is this
which
the
I
same
really like.
artist that did the Morpeko with the candy? It looks similar
I
to that to me.
believe so.
Okay, yeah, those are nice.
Yeah, definitely.
We've got Arvin's Greedent here as well, going after that sandwich.
It's a pretty good one. I like it.
And then it looks like Yan Mega EX will have a full art, but it hasn't been revealed yet. Same with the Dondozo, but we have sort of a blurry image of Ethan's Ho-Oh full art. Um,
I think these full art the trainer the trainer Pokemon full arts they're just kind of funny to me. They make me think that like the Pokemon are like carrying on their trainer's legacy. It's like got like a Lion King style thing going on in the
yeah,
background.
yeah, yeah,
But I like them. They're cool.
yeah. They're fun. Electivire's got his full art. We've got the full art Cynthia and Garchomp here. Um, and then the Arvin's Mabostiff as well. But yeah, you're right. It kind of looks like in memoriam full art.
Yeah, totally.
the Then we have all of the full art supporters from the set. The new judge is cool for sure, and then the Ethan. Um, I wonder if are they doing special illustration rares of supporters anymore? Or did that end now that we're in sort of a new era of the TCG? Do you remember if
No,
Journey Together has any?
I can't remember the Journey Together one, but I think they do.
Okay. We haven't seen those yet. Then, if there are, but like in Scarlet and Violet, we had a full art supporter and then a special illustration rare of that same supporter. And I'm not sure if we're gonna have that anymore or not. It seems like oh, we do. We do. Okay. Sorry. I'm just getting ahead of myself. That is further down. We've got the special illustration rare Yon Mega. Not
That's
a
pretty
ton going
cool.
on in there, but it's like really cool. It's just like zooming across the
Look at
water
how
there.
fast he is.
Yeah, I'll take it. I I just have to say I'm a fan of almost all of the Gen 4 the the Gen 2 evolutions that came out in Gen 4. So, any of those that get printed, I'm all about it.
Yeah, for sure.
We've got this is probably gonna be in like the top 5 for sure of most expensive cards in the set.
Oh man,
Ethan's Ho-Oh.
that's so cool. That just gives me such like nostalgia from like the anime, uh, and just from playing like the Gen
Yeah.
2 games.
Do you know what would get me even more? Just like I wish like the tower, you could just see a little bit of the tower in the background. You know
Oh
what I'm talking
yeah, that
about?
would be cool. Yeah,
That'd be
for sure.
sick. We got Cynthia's Garchomp in the stadium here. Cynthia on the Megatron in the back, or on the Jumbotron in the back. That is sweet.
Yeah, he's delivering a powerful attack. I like this card a lot. The
He looks
Cynthia
like he's
fan.
delivering a powerful attack, but he's only doing 100.
Maybe he's doing 260. Maybe they got that second energy on there. The Cynthia fans are eating good though, for sure, with this set.
Yes, yes, for sure. Then Arvin and his Mabostiv staring at a map at the picnic table. That's a nice one. And then we do have the special illustration rare Ethan, which hanging out with the Cyndaquil, the Pikachu, and the Slugma. That's just Gen 2 love all over. I
This has
love
got
it.
to be my favorite card in the set
Yeah, I
that we've
think
seen so far.
yeah, it's either this or the Typhlosion for me for sure.
Yeah, I
Very
like it a
nice.
lot. Yeah, very cool.
So hopefully they will print a lot of this set because not only is the Ethan stuff coming out in our English set, but the Team Rocket, Mewtwo, Giovanni's Mewtwo stuff is going to be coming out in the same set. So hopefully, uh, it is printed quite a lot so we can all get our hands on these sweet cards. But if you want your hands on these cards early, obviously the Japanese set comes out here in just a couple of days. We won't have these cards in the US for 2.5 months. So if you want them early, definitely check out Kraken Hits, our sponsor. We shout out to Kraken Hits. We love them. They, I know, will be finding ways to get you these cards if you check out their socials and everything. Um, then we just have the gold version of the EX. So here's Ethan's Ho-Oh, Cynthia's Garchomp, and then the Arvin one is not quite revealed yet, but I think that is all of the cards. But the Levincia Stadium from Journey Together is apparently getting a full art gold stadium, so that's cool because that's a very
Oh, very neat.
good card as well. So that is all of the Heatwave Arena review and Secret Rare reveal. Yeah, like Max and I said, we're both very hyped for this set, but this is only half of our NAIC set this year for us over here in the West. And so far, looking very good.
Yeah, super excited for what the rest of the season has going on for us in the Pokemon TCG. Yeah, I can't wait to. New card reveals are always some of my favorite time of the year. Just seeing what they got cooking up for us in the coming months.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you have enjoyed what you've watched here, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We're going to be bringing out a bunch of content here. Shout out to our sponsor, Kraken Hits. They are the best place to get your Pokemon cards for sure, hands down. And we are expecting to do a lot of cool content here with them in the near future in terms of streaming locals and those sorts of things. So don't forget to check out our sponsor, Kraken Hits. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video.